Welcome to the session on market access. And just to recap from the introduction, we have explained that to access the market, entrepreneurs and SMMEs, they need to make sure that they've laid the foundation in terms of, one, administratively, they have their administrative part in order. Two, it comes to the team. They have the necessary skills to execute the project or the activities of the business. That's two. And three, they need to make sure that they are fully compliant with the legislative requirements of the industry. That's three. And then four, they need to prove that they have done similar work before. So they have references in the space that they want to access the market. And lastly is that they have the operational infrastructure to execute the opportunity or the project that they're looking for. So if you are an SMME and you're looking to access the market in a certain field, you must make sure that operationally you have the infrastructure to execute if you were given an opportunity. Not only the physical infrastructure, but as well as the financial resources. So that sometimes you need to have capex, you need to have working capital for you to run a project that you might be given. Those are the 5 key things that as an entrepreneur, as a SMME, you need to make sure that you have in order. You make sure that you continuously improve. And yes, initially, you might not have everything, but make sure that you're continuously working on them. So now I'm going to repeat them because they are very, very, very important for SMMEs. The first one is on the administrative compliance. Make sure that you have your company registration document, you pay your CIPC, you make sure that you pay your tax, you have your tax clearance. If you're in your sector, they're looking for a letter of good standing from Department of Health, you have those in order. So on administrative side, you have proof of res, you have ID copies of the directors, shareholders agreements, proof of res for the company. So that's on the administrative side. You need to make sure that you have those in order. We're going to go into details in terms of what is required and how our app assesses you on those. That's the first one on the administrative side. The second one is on the industry compliance. Certain industries require certain things. So if you're in mining, you need to have a mining license. If you're in training, you need to have you need to be accredited for the training courses that you're offering. If you're running a franchise, you need to have a franchise agreement. If you are providing food, you need to have food and safety, health and safety certificate. So those are the industry specific. So the second one is to make sure that you have industry specific compliance for the sector that you are focusing on. That's the second one. The third one is you need to make sure that you have a team to be able to execute whatever the opportunity that you might be granted. Yes, you are still looking for access to market, but the person who's going to give you the opportunity will want to see if you have the technical skills to execute the project. In terms of technical skills, as a small business, you might not be able to employ all the experts that you might need in your business. You might not have all expertise internally, but you must build networks, you must build relationship with people in your sector so that you have an understanding. It can be an SLA or a memorandum of understanding with certain experts that you can afford at the current moment to bring them on board. Then you enter into a SLA or memorandum of understanding so that you can use their profile when you are approaching the market for you to try to enter the market. You can have the service level agreement to agree on your terms in terms of if you get an opportunity, how you're going to work with them. They will be freelancers or you can bring them on once you secure the opportunity, but you must negotiate with them upfront to know what kind of expertise you will need from them and then how much they will charge you in terms of the rates, if it's a rate per hour or per project, depending on the sector that you are in. The third one, you need to make sure you have the expertise, build relationship, have the network of people that if you secure a project, you will be able to use. until you get to a point where you will be able to employ them on a full-time basis. That's the third one. The fourth one, make sure that you have references, because sometimes when you're looking to access the market, if you don't have references in terms of where you've done the work before, where people can vouch for you to say you've done the work before and they were happy with your service, the next person might not be willing to give you an opportunity because you don't have reference letters. Make sure that you secure reference letters upfront for the type of job that you have done. But if you are a startup, sometimes the business itself, it doesn't have references, but you as a person or the part of the team might have references. So you might obtain reference letters on your individual capacity, but ideally the reference letters must be in the business name. The client that you have serviced before, they should be able to give you reference letters. At least have 5 reference letters, and they must not be older than 3 years, those reference letters. So that's the fourth one. That's the fourth key factor that you need to make sure that you is sorted. And the last one is you must have your operations. You must have the infrastructure to execute the project, depending on the type of project that you'll be executing. But let's say a certain company wants to give you an opportunity, they must be able to come and verify where you are operating from. Even if you don't own the infrastructure, maybe enter into a service level agreement with people who owns the infrastructure, so that you can show your potential market to say, even though I don't own the infrastructure, but I have this service level agreement with so and so. Whenever I have the job, then this is how we're going to execute the job. We have the service level agreement. This is how they're going to charge me for the equipment or for the facility that I'll be using. It's not that you need to upfront have the facility. You might enter into a service level agreement or lease or whatever agreement, memorandum of understanding, whatever agreement you can enter into with the company that or the institution that will be providing you with the operational infrastructure. But if you can secure the operational infrastructure, so that when the people are giving you opportunity, they have infrastructure that they can verify, so that you give them that confidence that you will be able to execute the project. Under the operational readiness, you need to make sure that the other one is, sometimes you need capital expenditure to execute certain projects, or you need working capital to execute the project. So as you go out into the market, you should be able to prove that at least you have sufficient working capital to execute the project if you are given the opportunity, or you have the potential to secure the working capital if the type of project that you're executing, it requires you to also have to buy certain assets or equipment. Then you need to be able to indicate that there's indication that you will be able to secure that funding for you to execute the project. Those are the 5 key things that you need to make sure that you prepare, you make sure that you understand what are the requirements. Those are the 5 key factors that you need to look at. Administrative compliance, make sure that you are ready. Industry-wise, you need to make sure that you have the necessary accreditations and licenses. You need to make sure that you have the team that you'll be able to use or access to execute the project. 4, you need to have references where people can verify that you will be able to execute the project. And lastly, operationally, you must have the infrastructure or access to infrastructure and access to funding or working capital for you to execute the project. So those are the 5 key things that you as an SMME, you must have. So just to recap, that's the introduction in our course to market access. And then now we're going to dive into those 5 factors that you need to look at. First, you're going to go into the administration and compliance to make sure that administratively you are compliant. We're going into a legal section. And remember, as I was saying earlier in the introductory video, to say industry compliance is very, very critical. Make sure that when you want to go out to access the market, make sure that you know what are the statutory requirements for your industry. What are you supposed to have? If you are running a service station, for argument's sake, you know that if you want to set up a service station, you know that you need a EIA, which is the Environmental Impact Assessment. You need to have that. You need to have the license, the operating license, if you are going with the big oil companies. And if your service station is combined with maybe a food or a kitchen, you need to make sure that you comply with health and safety. Those are the compliance issues that you need to make sure that you have on lock. Because there are many other organizations that want to access the same market that you want to access. You must not be caught wanting in terms of access to market to find that you are not compliant with certain things. If you look at the legal compliant, you're talking about EIA. Do you have environmental, occupational health and safety? And some industries, you must have SABS. And then certain things you must, if you are in the food industry, you must have HACCP. And then if you want to be a franchisee, you must have a franchise agreement. Those are certain things that you need to make sure that there are more compliance, that you need to make sure that you comply with those things. Because without compliance, then it creates reputational damage for the people who might be wanting to give you market. You don't want to go out to market, ask people to give you opportunities, and then when they give you opportunity, then you expose them to reputational damage, where maybe people experience food poisoning and to only realize that you are not following health and safety standards, or you're not following HACCP and all those. They might associate your organization with their organization. Then that will cause reputational damage. So that's that on legal compliance, but it's very, very, very important. You need to make sure that you comply. Yes, on this compliance, yes, you can still operate without this compliance. It's just the legal compliance, where without customers won't come and check if you have the health and safety, or you have a food safety certificate and you're following the processes. It's when they get sick, when the authorities are investigating, they realize that you are not compliant. Those are the type of compliance, like you're running a service station and then you don't have EIA, or you didn't conduct EIA on that property. And then somehow it happens that maybe there's some river down the line, then there's pollution and people suffer, they die, unfortunately. Then when they look upstream, they realize that you open a service station, but you didn't do the environmental impact assessment, or your environmental impact assessment was not approved. You will be in big trouble. And whoever, they say now it's a service station, maybe you are with Engine or BP or Total, then that will cause as well the reputational damage to Sasol, to Engine, or to whoever service station that you might be franchised to. Even for them, they wouldn't touch you, or they wouldn't give you an opportunity if you're not legally compliant with the legislative and the environmental issues that you need to comply with. Before you approach them for access to market, make sure that you have your house in order in terms of the legal compliance, regulatory stuff that you need to comply with. They are in place. You have your EIA, health and safety, if you are in food, whatever, food production and all that. You have your HACCP. And if you need SABS for your product, make sure that you apply as soon as you can. As soon as you can set up an operation that they can come into the audit, then do that as soon as you can. Because sometimes if you're selling bricks, or are selling pavers, or you're selling cabs, sometimes certain contracts, they require that they must be SABS approved. So if they're not SABS approved, then you can be given the opportunity. You might struggle to access the market. But once you look at your sector and make sure that you are compliant, and then that will give you as well a competitive advantage with other people who want to access the same market, because you're going to have the regulatory and legislative requirements or compliance, then that gives you an edge over other businesses that might not have. Strategically, as a SMME, make sure that you understand the legislations that are applicable to your business and implement the necessary changes or the necessary plans in place to ensure that you are compliant. That's on the compliance. And on the litigation side as well, just manage. Yes, I mean, sometimes you get sued for certain things, but make sure that when it comes to the legal litigation, stay away from unnecessary litigations. Honor your contracts, because if you get sued, sometimes it might not be your fault, but most of the time you find that you are the one who in fault. First, make sure that your company stays away from litigation, unless you are litigating where somebody didn't fulfill their contracts. But if it's you, make sure you make amends. You always comply with the contracts that you sign, because if you enter into a litigation, then it becomes a risky organization. Even if you are looking for markets, people will look at those things to say, is this organization clean? Do you have any litigations that are going on? It depends on how far their due diligence is, because they don't want to enter into a business transaction with an institution that is high risk in terms of legal litigations. And then make sure that even with your debts, you make sure that you pay your debts. You don't honor your credit agreements. If you have issues with your credit agreements, go negotiate with your funders. Enter into settlement agreements so that the company is not listed on credit bureau, or directors or key personnel. They are not. So make sure that as the company and the directors, you manage your financial affairs in order. You honor the agreements so that it doesn't affect your business. It will affect in terms of access to market, because sometimes they will give you an opportunity, but you don't want to be associated with organizations that they don't honor their agreements. So that's the legal section. It's also important to make sure that you are in compliance. You don't have legal issues that you're dealing with. You are clean. Then it will make it easier for other institutions to look at you in a positive way in terms of giving you access to market. Yes, that is the legal section in this access to market video or training. Make sure that you understand where you are legally in terms of litigations. Make sure that you understand the legal compliance of your industry, to make sure that when people are giving you opportunity, you don't have other legal issues around that you still have to deal with. Thank you. Now, as an entrepreneur, then how to use our app in terms of how to complete the market access assessment. After you've logged into the website, you'll come here to say, complete your business plan. And then you see it changes to manage your business plan listing. If you click on manage business plan listing, this is your organization. It will be listed like that. It shows you where you are in terms of the rating. Ideally, it's for you to be on 95% so that the market can see that you are compliant. Now, to update each section, you will have to click on your business. Then it will bring you this dashboard. So basically on this dashboard, it's got all the key sections that you need to consider or that you need to work on as an entrepreneur to access the market. The first one is administrative section. You need to complete all the sections by clicking on that rating there that you see there. So if you click on it, it will give you a form that you need to complete. And the second section is on management. This is assess the management and the technical ability and know-how of the team. And the third one is on the market section. It assesses your value proposition, the market that you have already secured, the barrier to entry, and the industry growth. So this is just analyzes the market for you to see if the market that you are going into is viable, and it rates you. And then the third one is on the operational section. It gives you the overall rating. So on the operation section, we look at the operating system, we look at the operating and technical compliance, we look at the systems and processes because they are very important to look at. And the fourth one is on the finance section. The funding that is required, the working capital required, and the actual performance, your current actual performance. And then the financial projections that you have made and the financial security. What security are you providing? And then on the fifth one, we're looking at the social impact, which is the social empowerment and the job creation. So there you're going to do the self-rating, where you rate yourself in terms of where do you see yourself, but the app will guide you. And the last section is on legal section, where legal compliance, are you compliant with the requirement of your industry, and if there are any litigations that you are involved in. This is the dashboard for accessing the market. As you complete it, first you will self-assess yourself to see where you think you are. And on the red one, then the facilitator, you'll appoint a facilitator through the app who will assess the same things that you have assessed, so that when we send out your profile to potential institutions that will be able to give you access to market, it will have both the ratings, your ratings and the ratings of the facilitator. Make sure that when you complete this, you are as honest as possible. If you don't have the documentation, just be honestly respond to the questions that are asked in an honest way, so that even when the facilitator is doing the facilitation to support you, they know that they are starting from the correct base. Because in an effort for you to score a higher overall score, you might want to exaggerate some of the rating. It's not important. It doesn't help you. You might come across as a person who's not reliable. For you to make sure that you are consistent and they know who they're dealing with, your initial assessment is very, very important. So I'll show you how you do your initial assessment, but that assessment is critical because it's set as a basis. Because after the facilitator has assisted you to improve your scoring, then you're going to have the assessor who will be totally independent. Will also assess your score to see if the scoring was reasonable and it was consistent, so that he can recommend your business for access to market or access to funding or whatever the opportunities are there. So depending on the consistency of the scoring, it's important for you as an entrepreneur to be honest when you're completing this assessment tool. To complete the assessment tool, depending on which section you want to complete, if let's say you want to complete the industry growth, you just click there on self-rating. You have the tab there. If you click there, then it opens you a window for you to show you the items that you need to assess. For example, it's operational system, is documentation, is the training that is being provided. So there are different scores for that item. So for you to edit the score, you simply go and click on edit. So on edit, you open this form. Then there's a question, operation management. This one is the overall comments that you give in terms of the supporting document that you verified or the supporting documents that you use. And then on the challenges identified, as an entrepreneur as well, be as open as possible, because this is the development areas. Because if you try to hide the challenges, then the system or the people who are assisting you, they wouldn't know which area you want support on. So it's very important for you to be able to identify the challenges. It's mainly on this section. And then the corrective actions is on the corrective actions that you think they must be taken. So it will be your view as an entrepreneur, and the facilitator as well will have a view on what corrective actions can be taken. So these are the actions that will be taken to improve your scoring. There must be interventions that are required, and then the app, as its objective is to facilitate access to markets, it also facilitates access to training. If you identify opportunities here and you put in the corrective action, then the platform will be able to identify the entrepreneurs who needs a certain intervention. That it will group you together and source that specific intervention on your behalf. It's very, very important when you're completing this form that first to be honest on the first section. Okay, honest throughout, obviously, but being as clear as possible on the challenges that you have on this section, and then the corrective actions that you wish they could be taken, or the corrective action that you're gonna take. It depends. Sometimes there are certain things that you will be able to do on your own, but there are sometimes certain things that you can't do on your own. So here you indicate the corrective actions that needs to be taken. Then you get to the assessment itself, where there is a drop down. We made it easy for entrepreneurs. It's the drop down. It gives you options. Then you just choose the closest options to your organization. Here, the first one, for instance, say operation management system. Okay, is it sufficiently documented? Do you have sufficiently documented policies and procedures? If yes, then it will be sufficiently. And then if no, if it's insufficient, it's documented but it's insufficient, then you choose that. Or if you don't have the system at all, be honest about it so that we know what interventions your organization will need if it requires intervention. It's not that if you put in a negative, call it a negative answer, you wouldn't be assisted. But you will get an appropriate assistance if you are honest when you complete this diagnostic tool. This is what we call diagnostic tool because it diagnoses the challenges that you might be having in you accessing the market. But the important thing is to make sure that you have access to market. So we identify all the problems challenges that you might have, and then make sure that they're addressed. Here on the system, and then on the operational management, then we have, is the system documented?